Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special part two episode of the Whiskey Ring podcast. Today, we are talking Dread River once again, but today we will not have John with us. We will be talking with the new distiller, Josh or Joshua, depending on what day you're going with. Josh Goins, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So, on the part one of this episode, we got to talk, as we were talking about a little bit before recording, the marketing, the history, the story of Dread River. But this time, we get to really talk about the nerdy details of distilling. But before we get to that, I just want to talk about your journey. You said you're about a month and a half into this job now, so you're still pretty new. I have no doubt you know what you're doing. That's not the question, but you're still pretty new to Dread River. So, what's been your story in the whiskey world, in spirits world?
Yeah, I kind of come from humble beginnings. I was a bartender forever, and I was a bartender at a whiskey bar. So we had like a plethora of whiskeys there from all types of different regions, from Scotland. And then you got like some bourbons and some American whiskeys, Irish whiskeys, all types. They had a really huge, different styles of whiskeys there. And I took a class there as a whiskey ambassador. And in the class, we actually had to. It was like all day of learning about the processes, and then we had a bunch of glasses laid out in front of us, and we had to smell and taste, and we had to place what region of the world these spirits came from. And when I did that, I realized I was like, man, like I really want to make this stuff, you know. So I kind of like got this strong passion there from that. And then quickly after that, I just started applying to my local distilleries to see if I could get in there as like maybe to clean the floors all day, whatever they would let me do. And eventually, a distillery local to where I came from decided to pick me up, and they taught me everything I know today. I don't have a chemistry background like a lot of these big heads in the industry have. I learned everything just through doing it, and yeah. So eventually, Dread River, I got in contact with them and got the job, and here we are in Alabama. Moved my whole family down here, and we're making it happen. So that's it.
And if you don't mind sharing, I mean, I think a change of job that also requires a change of location is going to be a big move no matter what. But for you, where were you coming from? That
Yeah, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So it's about I mean, in a normal, if it's just me and you driving, it would probably be like 15 hours. But I got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, so we get to stop every hour, to do
yeah,
bathroom breaks and stuff. So it's quite a long drive, and it's been a big move for the family, but we're happy here. We're out here in it's kind of like home. It's kind of still Appalachian Mountains kind of feels, and it's woodsy. It's a little hotter, and the tornadoes are a little scary, but besides that, nothing too major. So
besides a few tornadoes, it's not a big deal or anything like that.
I haven't experienced one yet. I'm waiting on that. I'm gonna be like a child probably. I'm gonna be in the closet. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So
I would be too. The one time we've had an alert up here in the city, we just went into the bathroom. There's nothing else you can do.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I don't, we talked to a bunch of distilleries in Pennsylvania. I don't think off the top of my head we've talked to any that were around Bethlehem. Do you mind sharing which one you were at before?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a distillery or where I started at. It's called Social Still. Real small distillery in an old bank. Awesome family. I don't have a bad word to say about those people, honestly. Like I said, they really started me off on this career path, and I've told people this before. This is like the only job I ever enjoyed, I think. So they really showed me the way on that one. Definitely.
I've been fortunate to hear that a lot in the whiskey industry and spirits industry as a whole, that
Yeah.
people just love their jobs. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what's better than that?
I know.
Um,
I know. It's hard work, but it's a lot of fun and
yeah.
rewarding. So
And this is actually the second distillery then that we've talked to that distills or ages in a bank. The first being Sam Maverick in Texas. So an odd coincidence to be sure, but hey,
yeah, yeah. Well, they're cool. Like a lot of these banks have this beautiful architecture, and they have these massive vaults, and it's like really a cool spot to put barrels in, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So I see the draw, I see the pull for that for sure.
Uh, absolutely. Absolutely. So you said you reached out to Dread River and had conversations, and then eventually they took you on.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was a fairly easy transition for me because my dad lives here in the Birmingham area. So when I saw the job pop up, I figured I would just, shoot him a message. And turns out they really needed a distiller. So I guess it all worked out pretty smooth, honestly. It's been a pretty smooth transition.
nice. Well,
So
congrats on that. It's not always that way, as I'm sure you know. So
yeah, yeah, yep.
no, it's fantastic. So uh, take me through, I guess, the first week that you were on as a new distiller. Like, what does that onboarding look like? Because I don't think we've ever had a chance to ask someone that fresh off that period. So
Yeah. Well, it's been a journey, dude. It really has. The first week was I was kind of transitioning in. So they had their previous distiller, she's awesome. I have all respect for her. But she was an intern first when she was in high school, and then I guess there had the distiller that she was interning under went off to do whatever else it was. I didn't get that answer. Um, and then she took over. So it turns out she had to move, so they needed me to come in. That first week was me kind of with her, and I was like, "Hey, what are the kinks of this distillery? Every place kind of has their own thing. They kind of have their own like, you should know this about this machine, So I kind of like got to shadow her, and that was kind of like a nice like handshake entrance. So she kind of like held my hand for a little bit and showed me like all the ins and outs of you know what Dread River has to offer. So that was kind of cool to be able to do that.
what was the I almost said the kinkiest machine. That's not what I mean. What was the machine with the weirdest kink? It's not even
Yeah,
better.
well,
Let's just go with that.
yeah. So we Dread River has a really hardcore boiler, right? So I know a little bit about boilers, not enough to call myself like a boiler tech, but she really helped me out with that because there's certain procedures that come with these massive machinery pieces of machinery. So
Mhm.
that was probably the hardest like one for me to wrap my head around. If it wasn't for her and the boiler, the guy that does the chemicals in the boiler machine, if it wasn't for those two people, I'd be like a lost child when it comes to that machine. So yeah. Yeah.
Nice. The first week you get to shadow, and then week two you're on your own.
Yeah, week two I was on my own, and first thing I did was have you ever seen the columns or the pot still at Dread River? It's massive, they're tall, they go all the way up to the ceiling, right? So the first thing I did was take apart those three-way valves and try to figure out what direction those are going in, and did a lot of cleaning and just trying to get to know the equipment I'm getting ready to run. So that was my goal for week two.
You sure you don't have an engineering background? Because that's
Yeah,
one of the things about engineers is like if it ain't broke, take it apart and put it back together
yeah,
again.
that's
You know.
yeah, yeah, yep,
Yeah. But you're right. Best way to learn it, just take it apart and
yeah,
remember how to put it back together, of course, but take it apart and really figure out where
exactly.
things are going.
Well, I
Uh,
mean,
yeah.
from my standpoint, I just wouldn't feel comfortable running it unless I knew 100% how to do it, right? So, and like you said, the only way to figure it out is to look at the inner parts of it, see the inner workings of it all. So that's literally what I did. I took it apart and put it back together. So
And I don't think we really touched on this in part one with John, just because we were focused so much on the story and the marketing. But let's go through what the still setup looks like. I'll try to add a picture of it to the show notes so people can perhaps see for themselves. But if they can't, paint us a picture. What does it look like?
all right. Well, it's a 5,000 liter Coth still, or is it Coty or Coth? I'm not sure. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation on that, but it's a German still. Yeah, and it 5,000 liter German still, and it runs. So at the top to the left of it, you can jump into a vapor basket. So if you're doing gin or whatever kind of cool things you want to do with that, there's a gin basket there. And if you bypass that out, there's like a reflux basket. Um, coming directly off the top of the still. So you can kind of hit through that and catch some more reflux and get a little bit cleaner product, you know. And then you have two massive columns that you run into it. And what I love about it, my favorite part is that it runs off of a glycol. So you're not using any city water, you're not using any water to cool your product. It's just massive glycol chiller. You can run it you can run it pretty quick. You know, you don't have to worry about it blowing past because it's perfect temperature in that condenser at all times. So
And what kind of condenser are you using?
what kind of condenser?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big glycol condenser.
Oh, I meant uh would it be more of, I know this is more Scotch, but like a worm tub or coil, or
Oh,
is it
it's a coil. Yeah,
coil
coil
cone?
condenser. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I told you we get nerdy on here. So
Yeah, I'm gonna try
we're
to
gonna
keep
ask
up,
that
man.
question.
I'm gonna try to keep up for sure.
So Kota stills, I think it is Kota if I have that. I there
Kothe. That's how you spell it. So,
Look, I had the spelling wrong then. But between that and the Christian Carl stills, I know the German stills are really known for being both efficient and versatile.
yeah.
So uh, when when you came on, actually, I'll save that question for later, but we'll come back to it. So it goes into the still, it goes over to the columns, depending on, I'm assuming, depending on the product, it might go into the whole process, or as you said, you could go to a gym basket, you could divert to the reflux, and then to the condenser. Um, when you're distilling, let's say, the whiskeys, is it going through the full, like, I guess, hybrid to hybrid pot to column? So I guess it would be 2 to 2.5 runs.
Well, when I'm doing whiskeys, my plan is to go straight pot still to column. That's how I want to run it, just from the mash, and then I'll do all my cuts coming off, just one run, right? And then, but right now, when I came in, there was a big tank full of some low wines, but there wasn't enough low wines to do a spirit run. So what I'm going to do is collect enough low wines to use those low wines, and then moving forward after that, just do a single pass off the mash to the column. So
Nice.
basically,
And
I have to make a spirit run, and then I'll do it the other way once that's finished. So yeah,
got to make room to
yeah, yep,
yeah. So you're doing I guess typical, like, on grain distillation
yep, yes, sir. On grain fermentation and distillation.
and
So
distillation. If you
yeah,
could do off grain fermentation, I would be really impressed, because that's something a
yeah.
little more difficult.
I would like to if we had the equipment. I would definitely do it if we had the equipment. So, but to
Yeah.
separate that grain, would be a challenge without a grain separator.
Oh yeah.
You know, or at
Oh
least
yeah.
like a false bottom or something like that. You know.
Mm. We've seen a couple of really interesting techniques on here, both techniques or machines or something fabricated out of like, just screens of different sizes.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen. I used to go and jump into breweries, just to like. I
mm,
would go work there for free, just because like they're like really got their heads wrapped around fermentation. You know,
oh
those
yeah.
guys are really really smart, and so I always like to go and just be a part of their process, and they use that stuff. You know, I
Yeah.
only know like one place that ferments on the grain. That's a brewery. So
Interesting. I had never,
yeah,
I mean, obviously we're talking mostly about whiskey and spirits. I'd never had someone on to talk about beer. Uh, but that's interesting. I never thought about that they would do that.
yeah.
So from from your perspective, then, having gotten to kind of jump in on the different breweries and seeing what they do with fermentation, then coming into Dread River, maybe this is too big of a question to answer yet, but what are you able to take from that experience so far, and what do you plan to take from that
Am I able
experience
to take from what jumping in at the breweries that I'm
at the
able to
breweries?
translate in?
Yeah.
Uh, well, I mean, it's just like for me, I kind of am because it's like I get to see different techniques and different parts of the science end of it all too. And I think the main thing I learned from breweries is creating like the good terpenes from fermentation and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So that's kind of what I picked up from them, and that's totally transferable over into Dread River. So
Oh, totally. It that reminds me, it was a goal that I had put aside for a while, and until now just forgot. I've been wanting to have a brewer on again, not necessarily to talk about beer per se. I love a good IPA myself, but uh, I think I really wanted to talk about this idea of the the distiller's beer sometimes gets overlooked as part of the process
yeah,
because
oh yeah,
it's usually not potable or not really, you don't want to drink it. A couple of places actually make really good stuff. Like you could throw a couple hops in there and it would be a great
oh
bottle, but
yeah,
most
yeah.
of it is terrible. Um,
I
and then
always
it
say
gets
like
distilled
distillers are
somewhere.
out to get obviously great flavors at first, but we're out for great yields. We want to get the most spirit out of the grain that we can possibly do. The brewers are here trying to like tee up and land into like a perfect flavor. Maybe it's a citrusy one or etc. But so their fermentation is strong in the brewery world for sure.
Absolutely. So, hey, we love fermentation. We love talking about yeast. So let's ask the question: what kind of yeast and fermentation are you doing at Dread River?
But it's like a Saccharomyces yeast. It comes from a Leyland LS. I'm sure I don't know if you know their lineup of yeast at all.
Let's
Um,
check it out.
yeah, yeah. Actually, I love Leyland. They always help you out if you have any getting a pickle at all. You can always give them a shout and they'll help you out. So I always respect that. We're doing we do for our whiskey. I've only made whiskey so far because we just need it. So I've been trying to get us caught up on that.
As it should be. No, I'm just kidding. Go
Yeah, yeah.
ahead.
In my perfect world, I would just be like whiskey every day just to make it. That's my dream right there. Um, but yeah, so it's just been a corn, and then wheat, and then malted barley is our mash bill. So yeah, we've just been running whiskey mashes like crazy, man, every single week.
And I don't think John specified this. I think he was leaving it for our conversation now. But do you tend to do kind of a shorter fermentation, double fermentation, like malolactic? And honestly, what I would say, what are you doing, and then is it what you would like to do?
Yeah, actually, this is my procedure that I set up for mashing in. It's we do the cook in one day, and I'm getting great sugar numbers on it. I've known guys that they'll take their corn and uh, and they cook it and they let it go like overnight almost, you know, and it just seems like I'm not sure why. Because I can get the same bricks or SG numbers if I do it in one day. So maybe it's an old time technique that they're trying to keep up with or what it is. But basically, we do the cook in one day and then it ferments out in 5 to 7 days. So usually that's about the window that we run it in. So, and it's 5,000 liters of mash. So, yeah, we are
Right.
using we are adding enzymes because we're cooking our corn first. So we add in after our corn cooked, then we add in enzymes and all that stuff. So
Right, right. Yeah, the 10% of malted barley, it's like just under the level where you would need. I've heard it's about 12% is about where you need to be able to
yeah,
kind of go off enzyme totally. But even then, most
yeah,
places will add the enzyme anyway just to help things along.
yeah. See, we add it because so if you're cooking your corn at about 160, it starts to like gelatinize. It turns into like polenta, literally. So you have to add in like amylase in there, and it helps keep it smooth and so that's the first enzyme we throw in because and at that point you only have your corn, so you aren't even getting any enzymes from your malts yet,
Right.
So yeah, so you kind of need it in that stage, but
Yeah.
I
And you're
probably
not going to
wouldn't
get
use it if I
any,
was doing like a single malt. I probably wouldn't even use enzymes if I was doing that. So
right? Because I mean, you'd have everything you need right in there. But like you
correct,
said, you're not
yeah,
getting any from the corn, none from the wheat either. And then not
yeah,
enough from the barley at the end.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that barley though, it really is like when it hits the hot water, it just blossoms out. It smells so good. It smells like a bakery. I love it.
It's yeah, I've heard it called like a barley tea. It
Oh,
is
really?
a lovely flavor. Like
Yeah.
you said, it just it blooms out like a tea leaf, and it's
Yeah, dude. It really
it
does.
just lets everything go, lets the sugars go, the enzymes go, just kind of dissolves if in a little way. But it is a really nice smell. I think for me at least, like walking through a distillery, walking through the mashing and fermentation, when you the corn can smell a little burnt to me sometimes if the temperature is too high or whatever it may be. But and the wheat or the rye, that's usually too little in the grain bill unless it's a whole, specifically a rye or a wheat mash bill. But that malt, just a
Oh,
little
there's
bit of
nothing
it,
better, dude. There's
yeah,
nothing better. Yeah.
it really is. It's like you said, it's a bakery, it's a savory bakery,
Yeah.
and
Big
it's
time,
it's
man.
wonderful.
It puts a
I
smile on my
love
face every single time, dude. Literally every time.
Yeah, I
Yep.
love it. uh when you're So you've been doing only whiskey so far. Does that include like the whole line? Have you done the whole lineup so far?
No, I've just literally been making whiskey
Or
for the
just
past like month and a half. Yeah.
yeah.
I do plan to do a rum because I noticed some supplies. So I have to get an inventory and see if I have enough to do a wash.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm gonna probably do like a Caribbean style rum. I saw some molasses up there and some sugar cane. So that's that'll work. Let's see if I can use that stuff up. So yeah,
Absolutely.
rum's a whole different ballpark, really. It's got its own animal. You kind of gotta the fermentation is different. Like everything is just it's its own animal, really. So
And
that'll be exciting to get on that.
this can be a little teaser. We're in a couple of weeks for the podcast episodes. We're gonna have Eric K from Holmes Key come on to really help us dive into rums a little bit because I it's a side passion of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so what styles of rum do you kind of go towards?
You know what? I had this kind of rum one time, and it was from like a 65-year-old dude.
Mm.
He's a good friend of mine. His name's Brett. If he ever hears this, this will put a smile on his face that we're talking about him. But yeah, I don't even know where you'd find the bottle at. It's called Pirate, Pyart. You ever heard of that stuff before?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty common, I think. But that was my favorite rum. I think it's like a Navy style rum.
Mhm. Absolutely. I might actually
Yeah.
have I might have some like old minis, like dusty minis of Pyrat. I
Huh.
have to I'm gonna write that down and look for it because I think you would enjoy that then. I went on a mini buying craze at some point of just
Yeah.
finding dusty minis on auction sites that nobody was bidding on. And I
It's
got
awesome.
some things that were empty, some things that were really cool. So but yeah, I've definitely got a couple of just dusty rums in general. So I'll see if I can share some of those.
Yeah, that would be
Um
great. I'd love that.
yeah. But that's still awesome. I have not gotten a chance to try the rum from Dread River yet. I would love to. I'm interested in rum from anywhere. Not a huge fan of white rum, to be honest. I do tend towards the aged or
Aged rum,
something
that's
in
kind of
there.
more my style too, really. They're like even like
Yeah,
a really well-made spiced rum. Those are pretty good too.
yeah. White rum for a cocktail, I would say. But I like to drink neat. What can I say?
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
um,
Touche.
so, hey, well, I have cocktails when I go out and I drink neat at home. That's my thing. So the I want to jump back to the recipe for a second, and this feel free to say if you don't know the answer to this, but I'm curious to know why Dread River ended up with the 60-30-10 wheated mash bill because that's a pretty famous recipe. Um, a couple companies used it, but I think most about you know well let's just say many companies used it. Michter's used it by switching out the 30 wheat for the 30 rye instead.
Hmm.
But those proportions are kind of an older style of bourbon
Yeah.
that people like. So I'm
Hey,
curious if you
that's
have any
great.
insights
I'm
into that.
glad that I didn't know that information. I'm glad they're doing that. I'm excited to be doing that right now then.
Yeah.
That recipe was one that was used from like the very first distiller. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to come in here and change a mash bill because they have a product on the shelves that it has to taste the same. Even 2 years from now, it has to still be consistent. So uh, that's why I didn't even think twice about the mash bill about changing it. And I'm glad you said that. It's kind of cool, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm as soon as I said it, I blanked on the other companies. I remember Michter's using that proportion, like I said, but different grain. But that 60-30-10, there's definitely someone who used that with a weeded mash bill. And I know my friends who are listening to this are going to be yelling at their radios or phones, being like, "It's this one. What are you talking about?" Um, but anyway, so anyway, you're going through the distilling process. You do the whiskey. You'll eventually do some rum, and then go into char three casks, char number three
Yeah,
casks.
yeah. It's actually funny you said that. I just got I think almost 70 barrels coming into the distillery
Nice.
to fill. Yeah, no clue where I'm going to store them until they're full, but they are on the way, so that's cool. We got I think about 20 char level 4, and then the rest are char level 3. So
Just for
yeah,
like experimentation or for a different product?
for the product, so we'll probably end up doing like a blend, or maybe we use like one char 4, or this is like just all rhetorical, but like maybe we use one
Sure.
barrel to 2 or something like that. Yeah, so we have a couple char 4 barrels aging currently right now too, so yeah.
Yeah, all for experimentation. I like when people mix
Yeah,
things up a little bit. And like you said, that allows you to, even if they were doing it before, even if Dread River has been doing that before, it allows you to put your stamp on it to say, again, hypothetical, I think 2 barrels of the char 4 to 10 barrels of the char
right,
3 is a great
exactly.
mix. And that can be your own palette coming through however many
Yeah.
years from now. So that's it's fantastic. Uh, I did hear to the question of aging. I agree with you. I'm curious where you're going to put them because I've seen the building. It's a beautiful Tuscan style villa. I don't
Oh, it's
see a lot of
awesome.
storage space in there.
Yeah, well, we
um,
have a barrel aging room,
mhm,
and there's about 140 barrels in it now, and it's a big pull up door, and
mhm.
it's packed. So I think we have some offsite prospects. So I think we might have like a storage warehouse coming up. I'm hoping it comes up soon because we got these barrels coming, so we're gonna have to figure something out. So, but
I
it's
know.
all it's all good problems to have, man. You don't have
Oh
enough
yeah.
just to put your whiskey barrels in. That's not a bad problem at all. It's an awesome problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You said your dad has been in the Birmingham area. You're new to the area, but through that, I'm sure you have some familiarity. If you had, without knowing what the new maturation building, let's call it, is going to be, what do you think would be your ideal warehouse setup or rickhouse setup in the climate that you're now in?
Um, Honestly, it really wouldn't have to be like the climate's not too bad for aging. Maybe something to keep it warmer uh, in the winter months, just to kind of keep everything moving, and definitely something that has a hose, so I could at least have like a wedding schedule or something. I'm not really too picky. Uh, yeah, I mean, preferably indoors. I mean, there's some people that believe that aging your barrels outside like helps absorb these amazing smells and flavors. Like, look how they do in Scotland. Like, there's some places that age their barrels on the coast, and you got the crashing ocean, the salt waters. All that's getting in the barrel. I just don't know if people want to smell like the out of downtown Birmingham. So I
Right.
would I would like to have it hopefully indoors, and temperature controlled would be nice with a hose. So that'd be my ideal setup right there.
Maybe a couple of windows in there or something, but nothing too
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing too wild.
I'm curious on the hosing down. I would think again, I have not been to Alabama, I've not been to Birmingham, so I have no clue what the climate is like. My assumption, I guess, was that it would be fairly humid there, just by location. Do you anticipate the barrels needing to be hosed every now and again just to keep it
Yeah,
wet enough?
I find that like if you kind of like have a wetting schedule for the barrels, maybe like just kind of like with some really filtered water, obviously like some good water,
Mm,
and just kind of spray the barrels down. It kind of keeps them from like drinking all the booze because
mhm.
the barrels like to drink the booze. So a lot of it
True.
gets evaporated out into angel share, and then the barrel drinks some of it too. So that kind of helps that process. But I mean, where I'm from before, it used to get pretty dry in the winter. So maybe
Mhm.
that's why I was experiencing that more. Maybe it'll be less here. Well, I guess that'll be to be determined.
Uh,
You know?
totally. I mean, it's not the first that I've heard of it. I should say it's more. I was thinking like in a drier environment for sure. You definitely
Yeah.
want to spray them down. Like some of the guys in New Mexico, Arizona, you need to because otherwise you're getting like a 15-20% angel share
Yeah,
a
that's what
year.
I'm saying.
It's
Yeah.
unsustainable. But yeah, I'm curious when it's built and when you should have the hose definitely because just in case it's better to have it and not
Oh
use
yeah,
it
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm curious, a year from now, let's say when it's built and you got the barrels in there, yeah, be curious to hear what you're experiencing really on the
Yeah.
ground and outside of the villa, really in a,
Yeah.
I guess, a truer warehouse capacity, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, just
Uh,
four or five walls. That's it. That's all I need, right? And a roof,
yeah,
and we're good. Yeah.
absolutely. So let's see. I'm trying to think if I have missed anything. So I did see that the current product, the current whiskey, I should say, cast strength comes out at about 124. So it's a beautiful proof for me. I'm a proof hound, proud of it. Um, so what are you generally going in at, and what does that percentage look like over the couple of years of aging?
Right. Well, I'm not sure what they put it in at. I could do a deep dive and find that's all recorded, so I could find that info. I don't know off the top of my head though. But I would go in at like probably like 122 around that number is where I normally put my spirits in at. So and then
Nice.
as it ages, usually it pulls out around like 130, give or take, somewhere around that neighborhood. So
It's a solid. That's a solid proof right there. That's.
yeah.
Are you gonna? You think you're gonna want to? And these are purely hypotheticals. I know. I know it's a month and a half in, and You're just starting to do your own stuff. So this is not intended to get you in trouble or anything like that. I'm purely curious of your thought process. Uh, do you think you'd want to release it maybe at that 130 or tamp it down just a little bit? Like,
Honestly,
what's your
like
preference?
it's like I mean, there's like you said, you're a proof pound. There's a lot of proof pounds out there, just like you. It's really the market. So I mean, just because me and you think it's cool, does
Mhm.
everybody else? I don't know. So it's kind of it's got to sell. That's the bread and butter of the distillery, right? So
Mhm.
I think if we bring it down to like a 120 or 124 or whatever it is, that would be more approachable for the average Joe. And then people like me and you, wow, 130, that's pretty awesome. Like I'd probably buy that. So it all depends on the market of the time.
And look, if you find that it's coming out at 130, but it drinks a little hot, you want to add a little bit of water to it.
Yeah, cool it down a little bit and make it more palatable. Because that's
Yeah.
pretty hot sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But to each his own. Not a
Yeah.
problem. So, I this was such a good deep dive into Dread River on the nerdy side and the distilling side. Uh, as your first era there comes to a close and you're really getting your feet under you, um, what maybe it's too early to ask this question, but what do you want your mark to be on Dread River?
I want to help these guys grow and become the distillery, you know. So one of the things I love about Dread River is that we do a lot of we're starting to really ramp up on like the contracts.
Mhm.
So we make whiskey for a couple of different distilleries, and being having that capability is really cool. So it's like, not only are we doing our thing, but we're also helping out these other people build their brands. And we're basically just giving these guys like the best juice we know how to make, and they're gonna try to turn around and sell it. So that's one of my favorite things right there is doing contract work with them. Yeah.
Nice.
So
And
my goal with them is to be able to expand on the contracts. I want to be, making spirits for everybody in Alabama, maybe more, that'd be my goal. So
that's awesome. And I was going to ask without breaking any NDAs because we don't want to have you do that. Uh, are most clients right now in Alabama? Do you have any out of state?
they're currently all out in Alabama. That's our clients right now. So
That's awesome in itself because then you get to put the stamp on what people think of as Alabama
yeah,
whiskey.
not only
Even
building a reputation for Dread River, but for these other brands too. And you know, having a positive experience for them is huge to me. So,
we've seen it work with obviously MGP, with Bardstown Bourbon Company, and with Green River as well. So why not? And thankfully, in some ways, because of the laws and because of the history of Alabama distilling, you've got a little less history, I would say, in a kind of good way. You've got a cleaner slate to work from to really make that mark. So it's
oh
exciting
yeah,
to hear.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's awesome. Well, this is fantastic to just again to deep dive into this. I have definitely things to think about and to follow up with you on in a year from now to see where things are going. But in the meantime, Josh, thank you for taking the time tonight to come on and talk about the distillery and talk about what a first week looks like, first 2 weeks look like as a new distiller, before you get to forget all that and you know before it
Well,
just
thanks for
kind of becomes muscle memory, if you will.
yeah, yeah, that's it. You know, that's how it is right now, man. Just really building right now my main goals are I'm trying to build this really killer team. You know, I'm trying to get a bunch of really cool guys in the distillery that we all just like to work and make spirits, you know. So that's I'm trying to create this culture in there. And yeah, and we're just really trying to get down different procedures and so everyone has a job and just we want this thing to be humming, you know. So we'll get there, but we got a little time on it yet. So yeah, man.
In spirits, time is all. So
Yep.
that's awesome to hear. I love hearing that you're already thinking about the team, about how you're going to build this out. You know, you want to make the mark through growth, and you're already formulating that vision how to get there. So that portends great things in my mind. So we will keep in touch, I'm sure, over the years. There'll be links in the show notes for where you can find Dread River, how to follow them, how to pick up the current products, how to keep in touch with all social medias and all of that. Uh, with that, Josh, hang out with me for a second just afterwards.
Absolutely.
And this has been another episode of the Whiskey Ring Podcast, part 2 of Dread River. Make sure if you haven't listened to part 1, you go back and do that. You don't have to listen to one or the other to appreciate both, but you'll want to. Trust me. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to. So thanks, everyone. This has been another episode. I will see you all next week.